I'm really sad to deliver this shocking news. South Korea is under martial law. Martial law.
Absolutely crazy what was happening in South Korea overnight. This is just really, really nuts. You guys know I've been watching North and South Korea, and I believe North Korea will actually be the puppet or the trigger for a World War III scenario. And that is because I believe that China and Russia could use North Korea to their advantage to basically pop something off. If I was China and I was trying to take Taiwan and I knew that I had to go up against the U.S. and that I couldn't yet beat the U.S. in a one-on-one fight, well, I would team up with some of my allies, which are our adversaries, and I would essentially try to get as many wars going as possible to basically divide the United States military. On top of that, of course, our allies, all of us, if we are fighting more than one peer-to-peer adversary, say China and Russia, those are the scenarios that we actually lose. If you add in Middle East fights, if you add in South American fights, if you add in Asian fights, you've got yourself a very divided military. Right now, as we speak, they're loading up the Pacific with aircraft carriers. Of course, North and South Korea are still continuing to have their battles. The explanation for why South Korea just went on martial law is absolutely nuts. It's so weird, but one thing it does say to me is something is going on in South Korea. So let me just play a clip, short second of this here for 1 second.
Honestly, I lost my words because I've never imagined this in my lifetime. Literally, martial law. There will be a curfew. Everyone will be arrested if they are roaming outside their home after like 11 p.m. No freedom of speech, no freedom of press, no political activities are allowed.
Now, I want to point out, this was a real martial law that went into place, and as of now, they ended up voting to lift this the whole night. This is absolutely wild why it even happened in the first place. This gentleman did the video as it was coming out that this was happening. And of course, for a lot of us here in America, this was early morning for Americans, but this was in the middle of the night, I believe, for them.
And martial law commander is in charge. So if you're in South Korea as of December 3, 2024, you are living a historic moment, surviving under the martial law.
Sorry, so I have to say, surviving. It was like 6 hours. But it's very scary that it even happened. It is historic. They didn't really have to survive because of how quick it got lifted. But we're going to talk about that tonight. Something is about to go down with North and South Korea. I have told you guys this for everything. And we don't have a crystal ball. I'm not a Galileo. It is watching the patterns, watching the seeds that they plant, watching the paid, I don't want to call them advertisements, but articles by all of the mainstream media. There is, of course, projects going on and operations going on at all times with some of the biggest media conglomerates being tied directly into affairs tied into the world governments. And that's not even really a claim. That should be a fact. But again, you can take that with a grain of salt if you want. But if you go look, there's plenty of public projects where they have literally tied in media with government operations. We absolutely know. We wait 10, 12, 20 years. We end up finding out, that regime change was actually CIA or something. So again, not saying that this is anything related to that. This, I believe, could very well be China paying politicians in one of the parties in South Korea to then cause problems, or it could be on the other side of the aisle and they could be paying to have this happen. They're saying that this is a political dispute. So we'll talk about that here in 2 seconds. I do want to remind you guys, though, with all of the craziness going on, we're not to January yet. I would hope that all of you guys have gone out and checked out the Grid Down Bug Out. Now, a lot of you wanted more capacity. For years, we have actually represented Energy. Energy, again, it has a great product. It is one of the best. I believe in it. I still use it. as far as grid down, we have been waiting this for years, because grid down is actually tied directly in with EMP Shield. EMP Shield is one of our longest affiliates and something that we believe in, because it is an American company that makes electromagnetic pulse protection for your cars, trucks, motorcycles, boats, pretty much everything else. Separate from that, they are actually tied in with this new generator system. And this has a 6,000 watt capacity, of course, peak, and then, of course, 3,000 continuous. So it's a much beefier system and a much beefier ecosystem that you can get into. This two-unit option, again, is not going to be for everybody. These are pricey. It is an investment. You are getting a power system for your house. But you can go for the 1.61, but anything over this one unit, the first unit with that 1.61 kilowatt hours, it will get you the 30% tax rebate. So again, this one qualifies for that because it has 4.29 kilowatt hours. So if you have an energy, that's about 1,000 watt hours plus about a third of another one. So again, go check it out. They also have battery walls. So if you want to actually power up your entire cabin or your homestead, they have that option too. And that is amazing. Some of the competitors and some of the other things that are out there, I would say 95% of them are made by countries that you're going to be worrying about if they're just turned off one day. You're not going to worry about that with this, and these are EMP and Carrington level event from the sun protected with EMP Shield right off the bat. So go over and check it out, marfooglenews.com/bugout. It also helps support our independent channel. You get prepared. This isn't going to apply to everybody because, again, this is an investment for somebody who's got a homestead and is going to do it. If you want a smaller one, I would definitely wait for energy to get going again. They are on pause right now. All right. And then, okay, let's bring in my co-internet brother, Dex James. What is going on and how are you doing today?
Hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I'm doing just fine.
So we, of course, have this martial law thing happen, and they're essentially saying that it is a political thing, that he is more related, if we were to put it into American terms or to, broad Western terms, it's almost like Republicans versus Democrats. And he is in the Republican side of things saying that the Democratic are essentially empathetic to the North Koreans and that they are doing things to hurt their own government, such as try to impeach people on his party. So what he did is he tried to do this martial law, or he did this martial law to try to stop it. And then, of course, everybody freaked out. They did a vote, and early Wednesday lifted this martial law imposed by President Yoon Suk Yeol. Dex, this is really wild. I think that some of these politicians are getting paid to cause havoc. I think that this is really right. This is like we're in the eye of the storm, and we're about to see the other wall hit.
Well, yeah, they're billing this at the moment as this is a very political thing, but he was basically saying that there were people in the government that were sympathizing with North Korea that he was trying to stop, and I guess some were trying to impeach either him and or others in his party, and he declared this, and then of course the entire parliament got together after the military surrounded the parliament. All the troops were brought in, surrounded the parliament. The lawmakers then had to vote, and of course they did that. And I think the leader of the Liberal Democratic Party, as they call it, Lee Jae-myung, which holds the majority in the 300-seat parliament, they voted to keep or to undo the martial law and eliminate it. So I think it was about 190 votes in favor of getting rid of it. So then they stood and waited for that to happen. They weren't going to leave until it was done. So he attempted to do this. It was, like you said, about 6 hours worth of martial law, I think was the amount of time that went in. But it seems to be at the surface level, they're trying to paint it up as a political thing. But he was claiming there was some issues with North Korea and some of the folks that are, sympathizing with North Korea.
By the way, I want to say this gentleman that did the video, people would say the same thing. If we had martial law here for 6 hours from midnight to 8 p.m., I would go on at midnight and I would say, this is martial law. And people would be like, oh, see, nothing's bad. This is a huge deal. I believe this gentleman's fear, and by the end, he's basically saying, pray for me and pray for my country. If this continued to go on, martial law is terrifying. It doesn't matter what country you're in. And there's a lot of people in this world that really think that all of these countries have their own leadership and that they're all running like their own well-oiled machine. And honestly, everybody knows that almost all of them are, not well-oiled and that they're not running well. But you should realize that all of the Western countries, all of the Eastern countries, they are all in this kind of thing where they're rolling along with this like one-way history field. Everything is going in a certain direction. All the Western nations, they're all tied in. Why is there the left versus right? In almost all of the Western nations, the same thing is happening. In almost all of the Western nations, there's people coming from outside their country, and the same playbook is being used. Doesn't matter what language you speak, the same thing is happening. There's very, very few examples of countries that are not in the same sort of protest that most of us are. That's saying, hey, what's happening here? They're trying to change everything. That is because every one of these countries, their highest top tier people are then going and meeting at a summer camp somewhere or at a freaking office building and taking in private jets and meeting and talking about why they all want to get everything under one umbrella. And to us, we get this circus, this play. But what is scary is we can also get a complete World War III, which they look at as, what is that called? Collateral damage. They look at it as collateral damage. If we lose, say, 80 million, 100 million, 500 million people out of 8 billion, one, they'll be happy because they want to do that. But two, they are not personally affected. None of these people in all of the top tier echelons of these countries, none of them are going to have their sons and daughters go into it. They're going to know, and they're going to have golden passports. They're going to be in different countries when it all goes down. They're all going to have bunkers if they are in a spot and they want to stay there, like Zuckerberg. They're all going to get a heads up. Like leave the world behind. He says sometimes maybe there isn't, this great smart, shadow thing going on. Maybe the best you can hope for is just a heads up. Maybe that is how bad it is. We're humans. I mean, we're supposed to be the top tier in the entire universe, but yet if you drive down the street, look at how people drive. A woman just pointed this out on X, and I just thought it was hilarious. It's like, yeah, people can't even figure out their turn signals, and we're supposed to be the intelligence of the universe. Man, I really hope that we get to a place where we can have peace and get away from all of this evil, because I think that is the root of all of it, evil. Dix, go ahead.
No, I totally agree. I think, there is something behind this more than what they're telling us in the media. And I think that's what everybody needs to pay attention to. It's a big deal when this is declared, but there's something more going on between the factions in the government there in South Korea. And obviously there's some sort of play with North Korea on this as well.
And China, I believe, is involved. Again, China, same time this is all going on. You have China retaliates, bans exports of rare earth metals after U.S. chip ban. Dex, do you want to quickly explain that?
Well, I mean, look, this is yet another, we've been holding back AI chips for them. Now their response is that they're going to hold back on the rare earth minerals that we need. So that these new exports could curb the end of these businesses that are looking for and trying to find these types of materials that are used in high-tech equipment, whether it goes into our microchips and chip making giants like NVIDIA and AMD and Intel. And so this could be one of the first. I think it's probably a sort of a precursor to the dawn coming in and the threat of all these tariffs. But them starting to basically create a ban of exporting rare earth metals in a retaliation for our chip ban against them, that's going to be a big deal. It's going to make it difficult. Now, this stuff's not impossible to find other places. It just makes it much more expensive because they have such a stranglehold on it.
And this is why there's certain things that you should be looking at if you're going to stock up on. I would go do your research about what this is going to affect, and then Go do some shopping if you're able. One of the comments in here: 4 Chinese industry associations seemingly added fuel to the fire, potential fire. This is you'll get a kick out of this. Threatening U.S. businesses by warning Chinese firms that purchasing U.S. chips is, quote, no longer safe. And honestly, it's funny. We always talk about how China is probably putting backdoors in their chips that they're giving us. You don't think we are? Every smart TV is a listening device. Every cell phone is a American citizen tracker. So yeah, I bet that is the thing. So, but when is it going to be a time when they're like, well, we want to be number one. We want to be number one. You're not safe. You're not safe. We're not doing anything. Why do you think all of the lithium, including all of the different brands that are truly trying to be American and make sure that there's no interjection from China? Look at all these brands that are doing anything with lithium, anything with Chinese-dependent metals. They knew about this. I believe they saw this coming, and that's why a lot of them are now taking huge steps, in some cases that hurt their own businesses, to try to move everything here. This is because everyone up in the top tiers knows that a war with China is coming. I'm going to stick to my bang bangs, and there's going to be times and periods over the news where they say, yeah, it's nothing, and we'll never go to war with China, and we will go to war with China. We're going to war with China, I promise. And I guarantee that it's not going to be fun, but we'll get through it. And again, this was a rare coordinated move by industry associations advising top firms in autos, semiconductors, and the digital economy. So, yeah. And then Putin stages hypersonic war games in the Mediterranean as 2 warships blast 6,900 mile per hour missiles in a message to the West over Syria and Ukraine. Vladimir Putin staged provocative war games in the Mediterranean today in a blatant show of strength to the West. The despot's leader's aggression came amid major tensions with the rebel advances in Syria, where he protects his authoritarian dictator Bashar. I don't know if you heard my talk about the whole lioness episode a couple days ago, but it was like, there was a monologue basically saying that all of this crazy stuff is going on our open borders. In that show, they said, well, let's show these guys that we're not the only country with open borders. I think that it has some sort of Operation Road all over it, that somebody is supporting one side, the other is supporting the other. There's proxies going on and secret operations, tactical operators all over the place trying to cause chaos. And this is all over the world. It is happening, and even when there's a lull and calm, remember that is because they do that on purpose to keep the civilian population calm. Up in the upper echelons, almost daily, there's some sort of craziness going on. And as preppers, we're trying to just look at the risk and see when it's high risk and when it's low risk. Right now, we are at one of the highest risks of getting our country into a war. So I hope that people prep up. It will end up doing you good, even if it's not the end of the world, for storms, for earthquakes, for hurricanes, whatever it is. So this is news from a prepper standpoint. I hope people pay attention because it's about to get wild. All right, you guys, thank you. Make sure to go, of course, check out our other channel. We're actually going to be going live with the rest of the stories from the last 24 hours. We're going to be touching on, of course, the South Korea event that just happened. We're also going to hit everything else. So join us. If you're in the chat, just stay there. If you are watching the replay, which I hope you are, click here and it will bring you right to our next show, which you do not want to miss tonight. We'll see you in just a second. Be safe, be prepared, and Marf out.